All right, good morning. Good morning, and welcome to another update. Today is the 31st of May, 2025, and we are pleased for God bringing us to the end of this month. This month has been laden with a lot of things, but through it all, the Lord has been merciful to us. 31 days that we climbed without being broken. Despite we saw a lot of things that could have broken us, dealt with us, set us apart, but God in His faithfulness has been so kind and compassionate. I think God deserves a clap offering. I appreciate the Lord for life, for you, for our families, for our faith, most importantly, that did not fail. Now, moving forward, there was a message that was dropped yesterday night by Madam Ngozi Israel, and I'm going to read up the message for us, but I'm going to also carefully bring out some salient points. In other words, I'm going to scrutinize the message verbatim, and I was able to bring out 7 important notifications from this message, which I'm going to really accurately carve them out and speak about them concerning that message that was dropped yesterday night. This time around, she didn't drop a voice note, and this, I guess, is the first time that she would be dropping a note. I guess maybe her presentation has always been somehow basbos. So the manner of presentation has always been in question, owing to her choice of words many times. So I guess maybe this was what prompted her dropping a note. But even in the note, I'm going to accurately carve out 7 important notifications that was drawn from that message. And we are going to pass a judgment afterwards. But this is what the message reads. Good evening, house. Happy Friday and weekend to all. To God be the glory. The work was finished yesterday night, and they have written their report, which I believe have been submitted to appropriate authorities. So let us wait for the next line of action. For now, but if you like, continue going after fake news and hyping, and nobody should come to my DM with such write-up. I come in peace. Ngozi Israel is my name. Okay, all right. Knowing that, definitely should know that even if that wasn't the voice note, you should know that is the aura that surrounds Madam Ngozi's Israel submission anytime, any day. All right, so the first is the tone and intent for that message. Is it defensive or informative? You could notice that right from start, Ngozi Israel begins on a cheerful and religious note this time around. Good evening, house. Happy Friday and weekend to all. To God be the glory. Now, that opening message seeks to pacify the people, pacify everyone, perhaps to ease the rising tension and the growing doubt in the group where she dropped the message. But immediately after this, she dives into the central claim that says the work was finished yesterday night, and they have written their report, which I believe have been submitted to appropriate authorities. Now, look at this statement very critically. This statement is both vague and assumptive. Vague means it's lacking in document. It lacks emphasis. It lacks it lacks substance, and it is an assumption. So it is both vague and assumptive in nature. The key phrase, which is "I believe," to me, it casts a shadow over the credibility of the message. So if Ngozi Israel is indeed a liaison or a representative of the NGO leadership or the grant team, then why is she not certain? Why is she not certain about such a critical milestone that was achieved yesterday night? Why must a statement this pivotal be followed with a disclaimer of uncertainty? Now, I want us to break this further, and that would lead me to the second point. It was said that the work was finished yesterday night. Now, what work? What I'm saying is, what exactly was finished yesterday night? Was it the documentation of beneficiaries? Was it the final collation of accounts? Was it the technical clearance by the financial partners or auditors? Was it the submission to appropriate regulatory bodies, or perhaps internal reconciliation within the disbursement team, or the machine that they say was having issues? What work was finished? So the lack of clarity around what was completed opens up some numerous questions to the people. It is a vague phrase which invites some level of confusion and, ironically, the same fake news she warns against. More importantly, how do we verify that any work was actually done or completed? Were there updates or photos or communications throughout the entire process? Are stakeholders, the beneficiaries, the coordinators, are they privy to any of this progress report? Silence breeds suspicions, especially when people have waited for months, for years with no tangible results. And this will lead me to my third excavation. She said they have written their report. They have written their report. Who are they? They have written their report. It's a separation from the speaker, from herself. They have written, yes, she has no inclusivity there. But if Ngozi Israel is relaying, if she is relaying an internal update that happens within the system, she herself, or one would expect her to know exactly who they are. So we must ask the question, is she part of the team or only acting as a messenger? Is she a key insider? Why refer to the supposed authors of the report in the third person? Is she not also involved? What qualifies her to speak definitely on this matter and finally detach herself? Because the detachment raises serious doubts about authenticity of that message without the ability to verify who in quote submitted a report to which in quote authority. The statement still borders on anecdotals. Additionally, that phrase, I believe, she said, I believe. That phrase, in quote, I believe, it resurfaces again. You see, which I believe have been submitted to appropriate authorities. I'm trying to quote that line now where she mentioned it. Which I believe have been submitted to appropriate authorities. Now, this is very crucial. If the report has been submitted, then proof of submission, even in generic form, should be available. Otherwise, we are being asked to trust in something unproven or undocumented. And that's like sitting on a long thing. I don't know whether you are catching along or you're following me in what I'm saying. I still have a lot more to say concerning this. On my 4-count excavation, she said, let us wait for the next line of action for now. Is that passive or is it strategic? One would ask and one would think. Let us wait for the next line of action for now. For now. Next line of action for now. Is that a passive statement or is it a strategic statement? This could easily be the most recycled phrase in the entire saga of the grand delays that we have seen in recent times. In other words, it is a it's a delay tactics that is, one could almost term as a spiritual patience. One could almost term that statement as a spiritual statement, but it's a delay tactics. That statement appeals to hope while it is offering no concrete steps or time frame for this disbursement. What's the next line of action? Who is responsible for initiating it? Is it dependent on a political or financial body or system? Is it automatic after submission? For now, let us wait on the next line of action. So is it automatic after it has been submitted? Will it need further approvals again after it has been submitted? So what are we saying? There seems to be an accountability vacuum here that's been left. Everyone is told to wait, yet no one knows who exactly is supposed to act next. And if this is truly a procedural step toward disbursement, then is there a known chain of custody for the report? Has it been acknowledged by the recipients, the grant committee, the international partners? Are we in a processing phase? Like the kind of transfer that is going into the wallet, or there are some verifications that are ongoing, or there are some approvals that are ongoing. We don't just know. And in high-stakes scenarios that are involving public money or NGO disbursement like this, timelines, accountabilities, role clarity, they are very critical to what we are discussing. But here, the information is deliberately abstract. Now, fifthly, she said, if you like, continue going after fake news and hyping. If you like, continue going after fake news and hyping. In other words, this is a dismissal of public inquiry. This particular part of her message, beg your pardon, is deeply problematic. Ngozi Israel expresses some level of frustration toward the people who are questioning this process. If you like, continue going after fake news and hyping. But why is this the reaction? I believe that in any democratic or community-led process, skepticism is not only healthy, it is necessary. Many beneficiaries have sacrificed their time, their money, and emotional energy. They have been waiting for a grant that has seen multiple false dawns. And instead of dismissing those raising concerns, a responsible communicator will clarify facts or provide real-time updates that counter the so-called fake news. Also, what counts as fake news in this context? What counts as fake news in this context? Are they referring to dates that are shared by other admins? Are they referring to screenshots from insiders? Or are they worried that people are posting out some of these out of impatience? Unless this is properly addressed, dismissing public outcry would only worsen credibilities. Yes, it will. We can't dismiss that. Now, the 6-point excavation that I got a draw from this particular submission. She said, nobody should come to my DM with such write-up. This is a measure of like avoidance or leadership. It's another red flag. If she is claiming to be an insider or to have an insider knowledge, but she is simultaneously rejecting direct questions in private, then the whole structure of our update falls apart. In other words, transparency includes accountabilities, a two-way communication. You talk to me, I talk to you. Then ability to clarify misrepresentation in anything. And this is one of the reasons why I'm opposed to the silence of the county director over time. That I'm not too comfortable with that, because it's supposed to be a two-way communication link. If there is an investment in the system, there should be a communication back to the investors within the system. Whether fund is involved or time is involved or what again, or trust is involved, anything that has to do with an engagement with two partners, there has to be a communication. Most of the things that disintegrates family ties is lack of communication. When the husband couldn't communicate with the wife is no more talking to the husband. When there is a communication breakup, you see everybody go their different ways. Because I can't probe into what you're not saying. It's immaterial. I don't have to be prophet every time to start thinking about what you are thinking. I might even be assuming, and the Bible talks about the sin of assumption is a great transgression before the Lord. David was praying about in the book of Psalms. He said, Lord, deliver me from presumptuous sin, which is a great transgression before the Lord. Did you hear that? So when there is silence, people are meant to just begin to think about what is not real or what is real, and everybody is assuming. And that's not nice. There ought to be a communication. So shutting the door to private inquiry is implying that it is either that she has no further answers and she wants to escape pressure, or she was merely used to send a pacifying message to calm the storm. I hope somebody is following me. I hope I'm teaching great. I'm just trying to drop something here. So both options are disturbing. They are disturbing, especially for beneficiaries who are relying on this as their last hopes. So if a statement causes more questions than it answers, then it has failed its purpose as a public briefing. Yes, it has failed its purpose as a public briefing. Now, my last point here that I excavated from this submission is that last word, I come in peace. God Israel is my name. That is a closure actually, and is an escape clause. Now, that final line is stylistic. It's stylistic and is meant to neutralize the tone, but it also reflects an attempt to shield herself from the backlash that is coming. So after making such a cryptic statement, she steps back with, I come in peace. Yet, peace without clarity always brings confusion. And in the absence of actionable steps or factual communication, it may appear that the entire message is actually designed to cool down tension rather than the advance any meaningful progress within the system. So what exactly is even Ngozi Israel supposed to do next? If she sees herself as a representative or a voice in the movement, The next logical question, which I believe must be asked directly or publicly, is number one, what exact report was finished? Secondly, who wrote and signed it? Thirdly, which body received it? Fourthly, is there acknowledgement of receipt? Are there additional steps that are pending before disbursement would happen? What specific date did submission occur? See, there are hundreds of questions to be asked on this message. Is there a legally binding commitment from anyone that is involved financially or authoritative wise? What roles do coordinators or cluster heads or field officers now have to play in this submission? What action does she herself plan to take from here on out? Is she committing to transparency? Is she stepping back from further questions? Is this the end of date fixing? That's one of the undercurrents of this message. It is a weariness towards public frustration over missed dates over time, which implies that the community is being asked to stop demanding timelines. If no timeline is given, what is the basis for our expectation? Yet, timelines have been given many times and they have failed. If timelines cannot be guaranteed, why make statements at all? What is the difference between waiting indefinitely and abandoning the process entirely? It is not irresponsible for people to want clarity. No. What is irresponsible is refusing to give information while demanding loyalty and silence. So if truly this signals a new era of no more date fixing, then it must come with something better. In other words, it must be transparent. There must be weekly report. There should be verifiable milestones. There should be countdown based on completed actions that we have within the system. Otherwise, it becomes a smoke screen. It becomes a smoke screen, and it's a smoke screen for another delay that is yet in the making. Now, conclusively, I want to end this session with what is next for all the expectant beneficiaries. Ngozi Israel's message may have been intended to calm the group and also reset some level of expectations, but in its vagueness, it also raises far more questions than it answers it. If any work has truly been completed and reports have been submitted, there must now be a demand for proof, a proof of submission, a proof of authority who are involved in this process, a proof of what the next line of action is going to be. In the absence of that, beneficiaries still remains in the dark. And this cycle of speculation, frustration, and distrust continues. It persists here. In short, none of you should settle for vague hope. Nobody should settle for vague hope. Nobody. And do not attack for seeking truth. Do not attack anybody for seeking truth. You can go well as to demand structure, demand timelines that are, how do I put it now, that are realistic and feasible. Accountabilities. Most importantly, we should ask also Madam Ngozi Israel, what exactly are you doing next? And how do you know that this is true? That everything has been submitted? Let truth and transparency begin to guide the way forward for us, so that we are taken out of this obscurity into transparent light. This is Princess Seed Channel. We communicate good. We communicate good news. We communicate timeliness in update. We communicate just more than facts. We communicate realities. So in case you are new here and you don't know what we do, we deal with grant, we deal with other financial matters. That's why you see once in a while we drop in some other things that could also spice your understanding up and could earn you the strategy or the idea to be able to make impact in your world. We love you and we are in this together. We are not broken. We might be cast down, but we are not destroyed. And so we are coming up better. We will enter into this new month tomorrow, a formidable army that is going to get everything he desires in the month of June by God's special grace. God bless you.